Hello everybody, and welcome one and all to the top 5 and bottom 5 games of 2014. These are just going to be my games, my personal opinions, so do not feel bad if one of your games didn't make it onto the list, or heaven forbid made it onto the bottom 5. This is just my own contextual personal opinion of what I thought of each game and where it deserved a place on this list. So before we begin, let's just run through the neutral games. These are just games that weren't good enough to make it onto the top 5 or bottom 5 that I showed a bit of interest in, but was just like, I can't really be bothered to either play the game or go back to it. Because some of them I did watch on YouTube and it's just like, it looks fun, but it's not good, nor is it bad, it's just neutral. So, the neutral games of 2014 that I didn't think deserved to be on the top 5 or bottom 5 are 1001 Spikes, just a difficult platformer, which, it's alright, it's nothing special. I Am Bread, it was kind of funny, but again, nothing special. Mountain Your Friends, ha ha ha, you can see his penis, nothing special. That seems to be about them all, it's either, it's funny, nothing special. Stick of Truth is a South Park episode, it's pretty good. I've played it, it was kind of alright, but it's just basically a South Park episode. It's the humour that you're going for, not the game, because the game's kind of short. Tamagotchi Life, just a rip-off of Animal Crossing. And the last one was Destiny, which nearly made it into the top 5 list, not actually onto the list itself. Just honourable mentions in the top 5, but in its current state, it's still just meh. A lot more. There could easily be a lot more improvements to Destiny, so it's just nah. So, those are my neutrals. Not many neutrals this year, so let's jump straight in with the 5th worst game of 2014. In terms of worst games, I didn't really have that many worst games. For me, I guess I must have picked all the right games. A lot of people said that gaming was really bad in 2014, but I could have filled my good list 10 times over and can barely fill my bad list. So maybe I just got lucky and picked all the right games, but for me, 2014 was a great year for gaming. So when it came to my number 5 spot, I didn't have a number 5. I couldn't make it like a top 5 and worst 4. So in the end, this is how I worked out my top 5. I decided to bring forth 2 games that were mediocre to me and I didn't care for them much, look at both of these games, and decide which one I enjoyed playing the least. And when it all boiled down to it, I didn't really play one of them, and the other one I played more in depth to be able to give proper commentary and a proper assessment of it. And while it has some of the best stuff on it, it has some of the worst stuff on it just on the other side. It's like a yin-yang thing. So that was just my thought process behind number 5. So number 5 may piss a lot of people off, but hear me out, it's just a nitpick one. I couldn't think of a really bad game for number 5. Number 5 is a nitpick one. It's not bad, but it still got on this list. But don't take this one too seriously. So, my number 5 worst game of 2014 is Kingdom Hearts 2.5. Now, I know what you're saying. How fucking dare you, Spyro? Now, you just cool your beans, mister. You sit down, Obsidian. You sit down, Cindy, and you listen to me before you start negative thumbing this down. 2.5 isn't bad, okay? It's not bad. It has Birth by Sleep on it. Birth by Sleep is my favourite Kingdom Hearts game. I love Birth by Sleep so much. But Kingdom Hearts 2, while I enjoy Kingdom Hearts 2, Square Enix screwed 2.5 so bad. They did not test 2.5 at all. There are bugs and glitches running rampant all over the thing, partly making the game unbeatable. There is one particular boss fight, which is the last boss fight with Xemnas, where he does a move, while I don't know the name of the move, he does have words to it, called where he'll grab you, throw you up in the air, and say, "You shall go together." At which point he'll start firing black and white vine things at you, and you're supposed to press triangle, like, you know, button mash triangle to do reversals along these vines, but Square Enix never tested it, so there's no triangle button, so you can't win. You know, if you have second chance, you can survive with 1 HP maybe, but then he'll just shoot you afterwards. So it is purely luck based whether you'll beat the final boss, and there is so many other glitches. I could go on for hours with all the problems with 2.5, which is a shame because it's a good game. You know, the 2.5 collection pack is a good game, but it was just never tested. And, you know, people, not just me, other people are furious about this. And Square Enix, you better release some fucking patches soon, mate. You need a lot of damn patches to fix what's wrong with 2.5. So, while it's not the worst game, Square Enix did some really bad stuff, and you've kind of made the game unbeatable. I got lucky to beat Xemnas, but you kind of made the game unbeatable and almost to the point where it's unplayable. So, because you made the game that's unplayable, for that I have to give you the bottom. I have to give this spot to you, Kingdom Hearts 2.5. But again, don't take it as a bad thing. It's a good game. They just need patches for it. But yes, Kingdom Hearts 2.5 earns its place on my bottom 5 as number 5 of the worst of 2014, quite simply because of the insane amount of bugs which can make the game unwinnable. My number 5, on the other hand, was very easy to fulfill. There were so many games that came out that were good to me. You know, just a couple before we get into the honourable mentions a lot later on. We have, let me just pick 2. Shadows of Mordor, that was great. Bayonetta 2, and the list goes on. But my number 5 top game of 2014 is Shovel Knight, which I kind of procrastinated about because it's like I had 2 games. The other was Dragon Age Inquisition, and I love Skyrim. I'm obviously doing a Skyrim series, and Dragon Age Inquisition is kind of like Skyrim. It's a fantasy RPG, but you're a guy, you're like basically the king, and you can choose who you want to join your armies. It's like, oh, this is good, this is fantastic. But then Shovel Knight is pretty damn good, and I've played a lot of Shovel Knight on my friend's Wii U. Oh, which one? So it was a very, very close call, but in the end I have to give it to Shovel Knight. Not only for its nostalgic value, because it is very nostalgic, it is done in a pixel art style, it has got side-scrolling elements, it's got the Mega Man-esque leveling, like you fight King Knight, Sunken Knight, Death Knight, Plague Knight. I've got half those names wrong, I apologise. But you know what I mean, it's nostalgia wrapped up, it's boss levels from Mega Man, power-ups from what do you buy power-ups in? I guess Mario 2, where you can, no, I don't know. But, you know, you buy power-ups. Link, that's it, you go to the shop. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. There is Wall Chicken from Castlevania. There is so much nostalgia going on. But it's nostalgia wrapped up in a nice coat of HD newness. So, it's pixel art style like the NES. But the pixel artage is done like Fez, so rather than just having the 32 colour palette, you've got all 168,000 colours. It's old 8-bit music, but it's done like Isaac Rebirth, where it's Dan Lebowski. It's not Dan Lebowski doing the music, by the way, but someone like him. It's like Isaac Rebirth, where it's like, oh, it's all but rather than coming through the farty monotone cable, it's full HD because we can do that with modern technology. This is an exercise of nostalgia mixed with newness done perfectly. Everything old is counterpointed by something new and enjoyable, so it's great for oldcomers and newcomers. And the fact that this was an indie kickstarted, this was made solely from Kickstarter, and when it was announced, a lot of people were skeptical, and it delivered more than anybody expected. And just from that alone, how, even though nobody expected anything to come of Shovel Knight, then, oh, it's a little pixel platformer that's going to remind us of the old days, they more than exceeded our expectations, bringing both old and new together in one perfect fusion. And that's why it barely barely scraped above Dragon Age Inquisition, and I have to give it my number 5 place of the top 5 of 2014. Number 4. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. If there is any company or any person that shows how easy it is to get money on the internet, Scott certainly achieved this with this very cheap, unfixed cash-in of a sequel. The game hadn't been out even a month, and literally 1 month later, 30 days later, he'd already got the second one up on the store page for everybody to buy. With nothing fixed, he just removed some doors and added some people that don't even come in. You see, everybody liked the first one, but it had flaws. Like, one of the key flaws which everybody picked up on was you don't have to change any of the cameras. All you have to do is leave the camera on Pirate Cove. Don't check any other cameras. No other camera matters. Just leave your camera on Pirate Cove to make sure when Foxy's gonna run. Now, someone that would have any kind of decency or dignity to not just make cheap cash in would have looked at this problem and fixed it. Scott looked at this problem, said, fuck it, and just added a music box to wind up in the same room. So once again, the problem is still there. The problem isn't fixed. So in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, all cameras become null and void. You don't need to check any camera. Every single camera is worthless except for the music box room. So you just leave your iPad or whatever the hell that guard's using. Just leave your iPad on the music box room and check it every couple of seconds to wind it up. That's it. Don't check any other cameras, sir. No. Look, sir, just don't change the camera, leave it on the music box room. Well, that's just the same problem as the first one, where you don't check any cameras. Exactly. And that's why it's just a cheap cash-in, because nothing's fixed. All the problems have just been not fixed and made more frustrating. Look, keeping the thing on one camera to see when Foxy's gonna run. Let's add a music box, make it more frustrating. The doors? Well, let's just make there be no doors, it's just more frustrating. Insta-kills? Yeah, we'll add a couple of insta-kills. So, rather than like Golden Freddy, where if you look at him and then look away, he goes away, there's Balloon Boy. If Balloon Boy gets in your room, he disables your camera, he disables your lights, so you're just waiting for Foxy to screw you. He's an insta-kill. If he's in the room, you can't get rid of him, there's no way to win, you're just going to sit and wait to die. Every problem was never fixed, just made more frustrating, because it was released within under a month to have a nice cheap cash in to get a whole load more money. And guess what? A third one's coming out in January. That's not even been 2 months, Scott. You haven't even given Five Nights at Freddy's 2 months, and the third one's already coming out. You are one money-grubbing guy. Seriously. So that is why, just from cheap cash, Mr. Cheap Cash In gets the worst or fourth worst game of 2014. Number 4. The Albino Lullaby Alpha Demo. My gosh, this game isn't even out of its alpha demo stage, and the demo was already far more than impressed me. Albino Lullaby is the perfect example of survival horror. I wish more survival horror was like this. It brandishes and wears the Silent Hill 2 method of survival horror proudly, with amazing atmosphere and world building. You don't even see a monster for the first hour, possibly even 2 hours if you're spending that long looking for all of the notes. You walk around a desolate mansion with no contact with life whatsoever, reading all the notes of the mysterious events that are unfolding before you. And the more you go on, the deeper and deeper into the world you sink, realizing that you may be a part of something far, far greater, and that you yourself may have had a direct hand in the machinations of the creepy events that are truly unfolding in this underground mansion. What a fantastic world-building experience, what a fantastic atmosphere-building experience, and what a fantastic storytelling experience. I absolutely adored this beta, I loved this demo, and I cannot wait for the first part of it to be released in spring 2015. If I were you, I would all right now go to their website, go buy the Albino Lullaby demo, play it for yourselves. If you have a friend that already has the file, ask them to send it to you, play it for yourselves. It is a fantastic survival horror series, and it is certainly worth looking into. And even though it's not as good as any of the finished games like Shovel Knight, it's still in beta, it gets higher on this list simply because it has so much potential, and they are already, because I did this as a Let's Look At, they've already informed me that they are well hard at work on taking everybody's criticisms on board and preparing to launch the full game in spring 2015, and that may even get my number one of 2015 if all goes according to plan with what they intend to do with it. But for now, your beta certainly gets my number 3 spot on the 2014. So please, if you're into survival horror, this is what survival horror is all about. I also said number 4, sorry, it gets my number 4 top 15. 2015. I cannot speak anymore. Let's just quickly move on to the third worst game of 2014. But yes, great survival horror. If you're a survival horror fan, check it out. It earns my number 4 of 2014. Number 3. Activision. Activision, just the whole of Activision, for being the most bland, mediocre company of 2014, in a year where we have seen so many brilliant games all trying to be innovative and strive for some sort of consumer, please buy me, I am the best game, please look at me, buy me. Activision is being the most mediocre, bland, boring company which doesn't care about its consumers at all, and I don't know how they're still in business. And their award sticks out as number 3 for Call of Duty, for being another Call of Duty, because Call of Duty is Call of Duty, and another fucking Call of Duty. Yeah, way to not mix it up. And Skylanders Trap Team, because fuck you, you ruined me. You ruined Spyro. Go fuck yourself. I bought the first one, and I was like, hey, this is pretty innovative. You can save the data to the toy rather than the game. And, it was innovative, and I give it its credit. But then it's like, obviously Disney Infinity's like, gotta get me some of that Skylander cash. And Disney Infinity stole the Portal. Then Nintendo looked at Disney Infinity and Skylanders making the money, and it's like, gotta get me some of that Skylander cash. And now there's Nintendo Amiibos. So, yeah, your Portal was inventive, but now everybody's got a Portal. Disney's got a Portal, Nintendo's got a Portal, everybody's got a Portal. And rather than saying, okay, everybody's got a Portal, it's time to cut our losses and actually make a real Spyro game with a real Spyro instead of that horrible gremlin version of me you've got, you're like, nope, let's make Trap Team, another fucking mediocre version of Skylanders, which is no different from the other ones. It's exactly the same. Put the guy on the portal, walk to the end of the level with no real threat. Activision, you are a failing company, and you're making nothing but mediocre trash year in, year out. You had the worst. I think if I had to name a worst company, and that's why you're on this list, it's you. I would say Airtight Games is on Steam for making 6 and 7 games a day and being garbage. You, Activision, you are the AAA version of Airtight Games. And that's why you land as number 3 on my list. You're not the worst, you're just mediocre. You're mediocre and obsolete. Well, there are 2 far worse than your entire company combined. So, let's get on to the 3rd best of the year. Then we'll get back to those 2 baddies. Number 3. Alien Isolation. Now, I'm a big Alien fan. Like, I've got this limited edition 25th anniversary Alien head where all the discs go in the skulls. I love the Alien franchise. And when Colonial Marines came out, I was very infuriated, let's put it that way. And Aliens, Alien Isolation, it's like, oh, here's Alien Isolation. No, I don't want it. You betrayed me with Colonial Marines. I don't want it. I hate you. I hate you, Gearbox. It's like, no, please give us another chance. No, you ruined it. Look, we're sorry. We are really sorry for the shit we pulled with Colonial Marines. Please, please give us another chance. We promise that we will not let you down. Alright, I'll give you a chance, but I'm warning you. I'm warning you, Alien franchise. I'm watching you. And oh, did they not let us down? Did they make up? I can't even remember if it was Gearbox Studios now, just because the game was so good. Fuck the developer, the game is where it was at. I mean, obviously don't fuck the developer, whoever you worked very hard on this game. You did a fantastic job on this game. That's why it's getting my number 3 spot, and we'll get into why it's getting my number 3 spot. So obviously, if you're watching this, which you're too busy to be watching this, but anybody that's watching this, don't, just because I say fuck the developer, no, they deserve all the praise they get. It's just that I need to talk about the game, and I'm like, oh shit, who was the developer? I don't remember who the developer was. I remember that damn Alien. So why does it get my number 3? Because it's everything we wanted as an Alien game. It is Amnesia, but AAA. You know, AAA says survival horror is dead. Bullshit, it's dead. Look at Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It got millions of pounds because it was like, well, if you say AAA is dead, I'm just going to scrape all that money up. And then along comes Alien Isolation and says, we want some of that. We can do survival horror, but we've got a big AAA budget. And oh, did they not disappoint? The atmosphere is exactly like the 1980s movie that I remember, that everybody remembers. The scenery, the set pieces are all from the Alien franchise, and the Alien is the key point that boosts this to our number 3 spot, because it's advanced AI and it thinks on what the player does. Your experience is different from my experience, and it learns from what we do. I might hide in a closet constantly when the alien's around, but then it'll get smart and it'll start opening closet doors. You might start throwing distraction whistles all over the place, but if you throw too many, it knows where the distraction whistles are coming from. It learns with you, and that is something which has rarely been done in a game, and it's really fantastic to see this big, black, destroying creature of death learning with you, and it turns into an advanced game of chess, because you're learning to do things, but as you're learning to do things to get rid of the alien, it's also learning with you to think about how it's going to beat you. And you learn together, and because you and the xenomorph learn together, it turns into a very piss shit scary game of chess where you've got to try and outwit each other to see who lives and who dies. And let me tell you, it's just some of those moments where it's chasing you down like it's seen you, you're running for your life, you duck into a closet, and it's there at the closet, breathing in through the ventilation, and you're just like, don't open the door. Please don't open the door, don't open the door, just go away, don't open the door. Those are some of the most terrifying, intense moments I have played in 2014. And when it walks away, you're like, you breathe that sigh of relief. And I have never felt that invested in a game for such a long time in 2004, or across the course of a couple of years, like 2012, 2013. They never made me feel anything like that. And with Alien Isolation and Albino Lullaby, I think the survival horror series has been revived with those 2 games. And Mr. Xenomorph, please just... Here's your trophy. Here's your bronze trophy. It wasn't quite the gold that you were hoping for, but Alien Isolation is a fantastic game. If you are into survival horror, it's a must-buy for any survival horror fan. If you're not into survival horror, I recommend staying away from it because you will shit your pants at it. But for anybody that is, and anybody that loves the Alien franchise, it is a must-buy. Go pick it up, and that is why Alien Isolation gets my number 3 top spot. So now we'll move on to the silver medal. Number 2. Assassin's Creed Unity. What more need I say about Assassin's Creed Unity? Just the sheer words Assassin's Creed Unity is enough to make everybody know what I'm talking about. First of all, Ubisoft doing whoopsies in its trousers by being lying assholes saying, oh, it'd be too expensive and hard to put female characters in the game, even though a lot of indie developers have said and stated many times before that it's very cheap and very easy to put female characters in the game. So they're opening their mouths before they even do the research. Everybody's getting annoyed at them there. So there's the company at fault. Then the game comes out. The game, first of all, is broken beyond belief, with every session just having at least one glitch in it. So, thanks for not testing it. The third thing was Uplay just dicking everybody around because Uplay is Uplay, and why does Uplay exist? And the fourth thing was the online capability, because a lot of people couldn't get onto the servers because I don't know if it's Uplay fucking up the servers or if it's just Ubisoft itself not managing the servers correctly, but half the time the online was down, and all in all it made Assassin's Creed Unity the worst Assassin's Creed in the series. But then again, why the hell is Assassin's Creed even a thing? It's had its time. The Pirate Adventure was alright, but it needs to die. Please stop making Assassin's Creed. I think with Unity we can all agree that it's not fun anymore because you just release the game every single year without even testing it. And they've admitted that, by the way. They want to make an Assassin's Creed every year for like the next 3 years or something. So look forward to the next year's Assassin's Creed. But let's not get into a big rant because everything that I say in the worst game of all time can also be transferred down to this one with like the horrible glitches and everything. But let's move back to the positives with the second best game of 2014. Number 2. I procrastinated a lot about this position. It was between two games, and while I could have made 1 second place and 1 third place, that would have knocked Albino Lullaby off 5th place, and I couldn't do it to another game. I already knocked Dragon Age Inquisition off my top 5, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it to another game. Luckily, my lovely Princess Luna solved the problem for me. Spyro, yes, son? Which one does thouest love more? This one. And after this, art thou going to playeth that game for thy subjects after Fez gushing over it? Yes. Then why not putteth that game as number 2, giving it its moment in thy moonlight, and give a passing mention to the other game, and then let's play the other game, gushing over it as 2014's second best if it weren't for this. So good thinking, my princess. So I have to give my second place of 2014 to this game, while giving a passing mention to the other, and obviously when I do the Let's Play of the other, we'll go into greater detail. So I just wanted to tell you my thought process behind number 2, because it was a really hard decision. So, my number 2 game of the year is Hyrule Warriors, with a passing mention to 6180 The Moon, which, oh god, 6180 The Moon, we will be Let's Playing that in the new year, and oh, I'll be gushing over it so much, because it's so good, and if it's so cheap, so I really recommend you go buy that. But that will be my gushing game of 2015. So for now, let's give the 2014 second best game title to the other one that deserves it quite highly, which is Hyrule Warriors. Hyrule Warriors, in my opinion, is the perfect example of property mixing. You are mixing Dynasty Warriors, a fast-paced hack and slasher where you are just super overpowered, wiping out hundreds of enemies with one sword swing, with one of the most popular fantasy RPGs Nintendo has ever produced. So you just replace the guy in Dynasty Warriors with Link. It's the same premise. You've now got Link's Master Sword and you're just slashing your way through hundreds of enemies being an overpowered badass. Except, let's just cut the crap here. Yes, it's family friendly, so it has been dumbed down a little for the newcomers. It's not as challenging as a Dynasty Warriors game, but it still provides hours upon hours of content. The adventure map is huge and will take you over 200 hours. The main story is fantastic. There are plenty of unlockable characters, each with a different moveset, a unique moveset. They're not all just clones. And the soundtrack. Oh my god, the soundtrack. If I was doing an award for Best Soundtrack of the Year, Hyrule Warriors would win Best Soundtrack of the Year, hands down. The visuals are completely stunning, and if you have to buy any console for any game, you know, you could say buy Sunset Overdrive for Xbox. No. If you are only allowed one console and one game for 2015, buy a Wii U and buy Hyrule Warriors. You will not be disappointed with what Hyrule Warriors has to offer. It is an amazing game which blends stunning visuals with fast, fun combat with a beautiful, amazing soundtrack. Nintendo, what are you doing, man? You gotta release that soundtrack on Amazon or something. Everybody wants to buy the soundtrack. You know, we don't want to pirate it, but it's so good that you're forcing us to pirate it. Release that shit on Amazon. We'll all buy it. So that is my number 2. Hyrule Warriors gets a high recommendation from me. Hyrule Warriors takes my number 2 spotlight of 2014's best. And before we get to the number 1 worst game of 2014, let's go through the honourable mentions, of which there isn't that many. 2 of them are kind of nitpicks, and then the other 2 are bad. So, the 2 that are bad are The Elder Scrolls Online and Five Nights at Freddy's 3, because it's a cheap cash and it's not even out yet, but like Majora's Mask on the honourable mentions on the good side, someone has to take the bullet, and it's you, Scott. And then the 2 mediocre ones, which were just kind of bad, like they're not neutral, they're just below average and ended up on the bad list, is A Link Between Worlds for being a poor version of Link to the Past, and Smash Brothers 4 for the 3DS, because the Wii U version is much better. It has more content. It's a portable Smash, but it had some issues. So those are the honourable mentions for the worst game of 2014. You know, if you're going to buy Smash, buy it on the Wii U. But don't worry about those, because it's the big 5 that you need to worry about. And without further ado, let's move on to the worst game of 2014. And the number 1 worst game of 2014, Sonic Boom. I think this is kind of unanimous and everybody's number 1, but I have played it at a friend's house. Oh, Jesus, it deserves this spot through and through. A truly decadent display that only serves to show just how half-arsed, lazy, and soulless AAA has become by first making Sonic and cohorts to what the chart says kids are into these days, by going as low as to let Tails and Sonic use the word selfie. Oh, no. Not only that, they have not tested the game, so all of the most basic gameplay elements like flying is broken as all hell. Like Tails, for example, when he flies, he is not a solid rendered object. So in the 2D sections, attempting to fly will allow you to fly through the wall into the negative zone. And glitches like this are abhorrent all over the place. I mean, the most infamous one, which we all know about, is Knuckles' jump and glide to glide through the level and grab the gemstone rock area that he climbs on, and if done correctly you can beat the final boss in 5 minutes, because gliding through the level takes you into like the level space and you can climb up to the final boss tower. Continuing onwards with this absolutely disgusting display, you've made the absolute barrenest hub world I've ever seen. It is absolutely giant. You know, this is like the size of not Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter 2. I can't remember because I don't like Jak and Daxter 2 that much, because I think it was just a Grand Theft Auto clone, but Haven City, that's the name. Haven City, it's like the size of Haven City, but it's barren. There is no enemies, very few NPCs. Speaking of which, I really fucking hope that you apologised to Styx's voice actress for making her record all them lines and all them interviews, only to relegate her character to a single line fetch quest. What was the matter? Were you a bit scared that you'd be sued because your orange marsupial throwing boomerangs sounded a little bit familiar because it also had an Australian accent? And lastly, its worst lie, made with CryEngine 3 Advanced Edition. No, let me show you something, people. This here is something a guy on DeviantArt made that I'm watching, and he made this with CryEngine 2. Let's just compare. CryEngine 2, CryEngine 3 Advanced Edition. CryEngine 2, CryEngine 3 Advanced Edition. So, either you are just using a pirated version of CryEngine 3 with half the features missing, which I can completely believe, or you are lying out of your face. So, to everybody, do not buy Sonic Boom. This is the one recommendation, or this is the one thing where I have to influence you not to buy it. You know, you can buy Sonic 06 because it's so bad that it's funny. It's like, ha 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 ha, oh my god, that is terrible. But no, this is not a Sonic 06. This is a Ride to Hell Retribution. It is so bad that it's just painful to play. It is horrible to play. You will not laugh at how bad it is. It is not so bad it's funny. It is far from it. It is a ride to hell. It is so bad it's painful. So, congratulations, Sonic Boom. You win the worst game of 2014, and if I were you, Sonic, I would first of all go die in a ditch because you're not relevant in this day and age, and secondly, big red button, give everybody their money back who bought it because you do not deserve that money, because this is a horrible game. It's not even a fucking game. You know, people say, oh, it's not a game if there's no failure state. Well, this has a failure state, but the games without failure states, fucking Mountain is more of a game than Sonic Boom. At least it works, unlike this game. So, do not buy Sonic Boom. Congratulations, Sonic Boom. You are the worst game of 2014. So, before we announce our #1 best game of 2014, let's just go through some honourable mentions. Some of them I really thought would make it to this list and were on this list for a time before these other games come out and just knock them out. So, without further ado, honourable mentions of 2014's best: Pokemon Alpha Ruby and Omega Sapphire, Smash Bros. 4 for the Wii U, Mario Kart 8, Shadows of Mordor, Far Cry 4, Hearthstone now out of beta with Curse of Nexramus and Goblins and Gnomes, Bayonetta 2, Titanfall, Crypt of the Necrodancer beta, which will probably make it into the 2015 best, Gods Will Be Watching, Goat Simulator, and Majora's Mask. Yeah, no, it's not out yet, but it's so good it deserves an honourable mention on this list for just the sheer mention of it. And maybe a passing mention to Five Nights at Freddy's 1, because it wasn't all that bad, I guess. #1, Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Yes, I'm sure you all saw this coming. This was the game of the year before it even hit the Steam store page. Why? Because, first of all, the original Flash version was extremely fun, and Rebirth fixes and improves on everything that, as I don't see what's wrong, but I'll go in Edmund's words, fixes and improves everything that he saw shit about the first one. I myself personally really enjoyed the first one, and now I can see why he says that the Flash version is shit. Rebirth increases its likability, its quality, 1,000-fold over the original by adding brand new levels, a whole set of new items, new gameplay mechanics, fixing all of the old things that didn't work in the old version, like how the synergies never work, but now if you pick up Mom's Knife Brimstone and Mom's Knife Quadshot, they work perfectly. And of course adding new challenges, new modes like hard mode, which we're playing now, new characters like the Lost, as you can see here, and all in all, it is a fantastic, well-made game with so many more hours of content. The original Binding of Isaac itself giving me 500 hours worth of content, and I can easily see Rebirth giving me 500 hours again, and then some more, just because of the sheer amount of content that's been put into it, and the sheer amount of quality and care that has also gone into it in terms of making the music, the synergies, the graphics, and everything else overall tighter and a whole lot better.